Welcome to the Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019 regular business meeting of the East Bay MUD Board of Directors. The Sustainability and Energy Committee, as well as the Finance Administration Committee, met earlier this morning and will provide brief reports under item 15. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Directors Coleman.
Present.
Katz.
Present.
Lenny.
Here.
McIntosh.
Here.
Mellon.
Present.
Patterson.
Present.
President Young.
I'm here. Okay, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sounds like you're going to interfere.
We have a couple of presentations to kick things off, but I also wanted to recognize that all of our, or at least almost all of our summer interns are here today to observe the meeting. Welcome and thank you for your service over the course of this summer. Could you all stand up? Everybody that's an intern, can you just stand up for a second? Woo-hoo. Great. Many of you at least are now considering a career with East Bay MUD. Okay, presentations. Alex?
All right, so we have two presentations this morning. Our first is the National Association of Clean Water Agencies Workforce Development Award. And I'll read a little bit about it, and then our president, Young, will provide the award to staff, and we'll look for a photo opportunity. So the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, or NACWA, awarded the district their 2019 Workforce Development Award. The Workforce Development Award recognizes the district's wastewater plant operator trades training program for embodying effective, sustainable solutions that address the need for a qualified, diverse, and knowledgeable utility workforce. In recent years, the wastewater department has been faced with a silver tsunami of retirements on the horizon while having difficulty recruiting a qualified and diverse workforce. The training program was created to address those challenges by focusing on a grow our own approach of hiring talented entry-level operators and then training them in-house. The training program has been a major success, with 75% of the wastewater operations team either currently enrolled in or graduates of the program. Since implementation, the district has maintained its perfect NPDES permit compliance record, now at 19 years, while improving the diversity of its operator applicant pool. This award speaks volumes regarding how staff has demonstrated the district's values of stewardship, respect, integrity, and teamwork in a very tangible way, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The wastewater department is represented here today by the following staff. And if, as I call you, maybe you can come up to the front. Kevin Dickinson, Technical Training and Writing Administrator. David Freitas, Wastewater Treatment Superintendent. Jason Lee, Wastewater Plant Operator 2. Ryan McGuire, Wastewater Operations Coordinator. Jesse Ochoa, Wastewater Plant Operator 1. And Michelle Yee, Wastewater Plant Operator 1.
I think the camera people will want you to
Yeah, all right. Please join me in congratulating all of these staff for a job well done.
Great work in the face of a lot of challenges, and thank you for exemplifying the work ethic and stewardship of the district. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, well, we're fortunate today to have two awards, and the second award here has been provided by the Government Finance Officers Association, and it's an award for excellence. And we're going to ask that Director Patterson, who's currently the chair of our Finance Committee, present the award. So the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has presented a Certificate of Achievement for the Excellence in Government Finance Award to the district for exceptionally well implemented GFOA, Government Finance Officer Association Best Practice on capital versus operating decisions for the non-accountant. Staff revised Procedure 404, capitalization of district assets, to now include a decision tree that provides clear protocol for determining if construction costs are eligible for capitalization. The revision focuses on compliance with Governmental Accounting Standards Board pronouncements. It promotes teamwork and communication, improves reporting and internal control, and encourages efficient communication between staff for capitalizing assets accurately and in a timely fashion. This award enhances our standing with other agencies and the financial community. Under the leadership of Controller Scott Klein, accounting staff consisting of Diane Egerton, Matt Hauk, Marina Hughes, Kirk Hutchins, Sandy Lindley, Leanne Maloney, Sammy Ng, Patty Sue, and Tiffany Tran, Angenique Walsh, and Tao Zhang, created this winning procedure with support from other staff throughout the district. This lengthy procedural enhancement has truly been a team effort. All right. Could you join me all in congratulating staff for this effort?
It would all disappear.
It's always good to see the team that's behind what puts East Bay Mud heads and shoulders above all the other agencies. You have made us the envy in the community of government finance. We are leaders in the nation because of your endeavor, and you have carried us to the highest mountain. I congratulate you and hope that you will continue to elevate us. Thank you very much.
This is truly a team effort to do this. This was done with all the stakeholders throughout the district to actually come up with a decision tree and test it, make it work. But the award also was done because Sandy Lindley, who is a great writer, and the team put together a great application for the award as well. So, I'm sorry, sometimes these things don't happen without great writing. So we're very thrilled that we're actually recognized for it, and a tool that can be used for others. And we've already sent it to other agencies for them to adopt. And we have our own separate webpage on GFOA now, so it's kind of cool.
Great. Thank you all. You do the picture already?
See, does yours connect? Does yours need a connection from here to here?
Mine is different. It connects.
I need something.
Mine connects back here. Should just ask if this is a district.
All righty. We have consent calendar, which consists of 11 items. Anyone?
Public comment?
Oh, sorry. Skipped a part. Is there? We have actually no announcements from closed session. And is there anyone here for public comment for items that are not on the agenda? I have 2 speaker cards for a later agenda item 13.1, but I do not have any currently. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to make a comment on something outside of the agenda? Okay. We will move on then to consent calendar. And as I mentioned, we have 11 items up for consent. Are there any items that a member wishes to remove from the calendar?
I'll move 1 through 11.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second by Doug Linney. Any discussion? I assume not. Okay. All those in favor of adopting the consent calendar?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Consent calendar is adopted. That moves us on to 2 public hearings. Item 12. This is for item 12.1. We are opening the public hearing, and we will be conducting a public hearing to consider objections and protests to the general manager's report to transfer delinquent East Bay MUD charges to the 2019-2020 property tax rolls. If there was anyone here regarding this item, our staff is available at a table right outside the boardroom to assist you with making payment arrangements and to provide information related to delinquent charges. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to object or protest the actions being considered by the board? If someone does object, we can either unilaterally remove the protester's lien from being transferred to the property tax rolls or refer the protester to staff. Are there any protesters present? Seeing none, I will move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. I don't know that we need to vote on that. It's just, okay. And we're now on agenda 12.2, which is to adopt the general manager's report to transfer those delinquent charges to the property tax rolls.
So moved.
Moved by Director McIntosh, seconded by Director Patterson. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? None. And all members voted, present voted in favor. So that is adopted. We will now move on to item 13.1. And we will be conducting a public hearing to consider objections and protests to East Bay MUD's written report describing each parcel of real property subject to wet weather facilities charges to be collected on the 2019-2020 property tax rolls for East Bay MUD's fiscal year 2020, and the amount of the wet weather facilities charges to be imposed on each parcel. The public hearing is now open. Please note that a blue speaker card is not a valid protest. If you want to lodge a protest to the report or to a charge listed in the report, please do so with staff located outside the boardroom as soon as possible to ensure efficient process and to make sure that your protest is counted. All protests must be lodged before the close of the public hearing. Forms are available to lodge a protest if you have not already written a letter. I do have 2 speaker cards for public comment, and if there's anyone else that wishes to make a public comment in the hearing, they can fill out a blue speaker card and come forward. First up, I have Marcus Crowley.
Do we have a board presentation?
So we have a presentation.
Well, the board presentation will follow the public comments. That way it gives people time to...
Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Crawley. I'm the president of Alameda County Taxpayer Association, and I'd like to say a few words about this resolution. I ask that I be given 6 minutes.
3 minutes is the time limit, sir.
Okay. Well, when it's expired, we'll see what we can do about that.
There's a clock right up in
Okay.
front.
The resolution states that the protesters must send the district a letter of protest. The district protest scheme is that the few hundred protest letters will be matched against the few 100,000 ratepayers of these parcels who don't respond for the most part. Of course, the protesters will lose hands down. This resolution explains this scheme on page 5, paragraph 10. It states that the district did not receive written protests against these charges from a majority of the record owners of the parcel. The district scheme sounds unfavorable to the taxpayers, and it is unfair. The district's protest scheme sounds unconstitutional, and it is unconstitutional. The district lawyers have misrepresented the operative statement of Article 13D, Section 6A2. It states, if written protests against the proposed fee or charge are presented by a majority of owners of the identified parcels, the agency shall not impose the fee or charges. In other words, the Constitution requires, in those situations where the protests are a majority of the parcel owners, the district can stop counting and everybody can go home because there's no way that the outcome will be changed. The Constitution does not state that in order for the protesters to prevail, they must be a majority of all parcel owners.
That's your time. I'll give you 15 seconds to make up for the clarification earlier.
Okay. In other words, the Constitution requires the situation where these charges... Now, if we look at Proposition 218, the title of Proposition 218 is Voter Approval of Local Government Limitation on Fees, Assessments, and Charges. So, if we examine Proposition 218, it requires that the voter approval be solicited for all new charges, and what the East Bay MUD has done is eliminate and make irrelevant all consenting taxpayers.
That's your time.
Which is unconstitutional, and I suggest that this board denounce the protest scheme and declare that and nullify this entire resolution.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Crowley.
Thank you.
Next up, Roberto, and if you have a protest and you haven't filed it in writing, you need to do that outside. Roberto Stinga.
Before I leave, is there any member of the board that wants to hear the rest of what I have to say?
We impose a time limit on every speaker.
Can I give my 3 minutes to Mr. Crowley?
That's not our typical practice, but if you will not speak, then I'll give him another couple minutes. Sure.
Because he's very knowledgeable,
okay, so you're.
He can make his point, and although I have to make his point, he did most of the work on it. Give him the credit.
Okay, you can start the clock at. I did. Thank you.
So continuing, not only does the title of Proposition 218 require voter approval on all these charges, if we look a little bit farther, Proposition 218 provides some guidance for this agency. On Section 5 of Proposition 218, it states that the provisions of this act shall be liberally construed to effectuate its purposes of limiting local government revenue and enhancing taxpayer consent. So no matter what kind of protest scheme the organization comes up with, you must encourage the voter consent. And what this scheme has done is make voter consent irrelevant. So that's why it is unconstitutional and you need to rethink it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Craig.
Okay, we've got a presentation from, that's fine.
Okay, well, I'll
Well,
throw you
can
the
you say-
question, and then you can have time to think about it during the presentation. Just
Okay.
on the legalities of what was discussed, if you can talk about that after the presentation. Sure. Craig, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next, if there are no other public comments, seeing none. Okay.
We'll have
I'm
this.
sorry, I've lost my spot.
We can provide a staff presentation.
Yes, we're going to have staff presentation from Eileen White. I don't know why. Oh, there it is. I was on the wrong page. On the wet weather facilities charge. And then we will still take public comment? This does not seem right. Okay.
Good afternoon, President Young, members of the board, members of the public, and welcome our interns. Our interns will get to learn a little more about the wastewater system today. So when atmospheric rivers come in, some people think of the rainfall filling the local reservoirs. Other people grab their umbrella like the lady in the photo and walk around Lake Merritt. But for others, they experience the flooding as shown in the photo in the lower right-hand corner. That photo was taken last February in West Oakland. And it just exemplifies how when we get these atmospheric rivers coming in, that the stormwater system is stressed to its maximum capability. EBMUD provides wastewater service to 7 satellite agencies, and they include Steep Sanitary District, Albany, Berkeley, Emeryville, Piedmont, Oakland, and Alameda. Collectively, these 7 satellite agencies have 1,600 miles of a regional collection system. So those are the sewer pipes that are in the streets of Oakland that deliver the sewage to the main wastewater treatment plant. In addition, there's 1,600 miles of private sewer laterals. The private sewer lateral is a small diameter pipe that takes the waste from the property and delivers it to the sewer pipe in the street that is owned by the local city. So on a sunny day like today, the wastewater leaves the property after the toilet is flushed, makes its way through the private sewer lateral, flows into the collection system, makes its way to the main wastewater treatment plant, is treated, and then it's discharged to San Francisco Bay. When it rains here in the East Bay, we have a separate stormwater system. So the stormwater is to stay in the stormwater system. But that's not the way the stormwater system functions. As we saw in the previous photo, the stormwater system quickly becomes overwhelmed when we get these storm events. And in fact, because so many of the private sewer laterals leak and are old, and because so many of the pipes that are in the different city streets, the sewer pipes, leak, we see infiltration and inflow flowing into the sewer pipes. And here's a photo. This photo was taken in El Cerrito, and this photo shows you the rainwater flowing in. You ask, why is the rainwater, what's that water that's green? So you can see the rainwater flowing in the sewer pipe. The reason the water is green is we put dye upstream, and it's showing the stormwater that's infiltrating in to the sewer collection system. As a result, during storm events, we see flows to the main wastewater treatment plant 14 times more than we see on a sunny day like today. EBMUD designed and built wet weather facilities to be able to handle these wet weather flows. The photo in the upper left-hand corner is Oakport facility. Oakport was constructed in the 1990s, and it's got a capacity of 150 million gallons per day it can discharge of stormwater when we get these storm events. The middle photo on the left is San Antonio Creek, located here in Oakland down by the Embarcadero. It's got a capacity of 50 million gallons per day. And the photo in the lower left-hand corner is Point Isabel, which is in the north, and it's got a capacity of 100 million gallons per day. These wet weather facilities were constructed in the 1990s, and they're called wet weather facilities because they are only operated when we get these storm events. They are never turned on a day like today. There's no reason to operate them. The photo in the upper right-hand corner is our 3rd Street interceptor. It's our large diameter pipe here located in West Oakland. It's currently being rehabbed. It's being relined. And it's 9 foot in diameter, and it takes the stormwater and the wastewater that flows from the city of Oakland sewer pipes and takes it into the wastewater system, where it is treated before being discharged to San Francisco Bay. The photo in the lower right-hand corner shows you the 11 million gallon storage basin we have at the main wastewater treatment plant. We rely on our infiltration and inflow facilities to manage the wet weather flows during the wintertime to protect San Francisco Bay and to protect public health. The wet weather facilities charge funds the capital expenses for these inflow and infiltration facilities. It's authorized under the Health and Safety Code to collect these charges on the property tax roll. EBMUD has been doing this since 1987 to be able to handle the wet weather flows and to protect public health. The wet weather facilities charge represents 20% of the total revenue of the wastewater system, and these facilities are critical to managing these flows during the wintertime. The wet weather facilities charge is based on your property size. We've generalized the property lots into 3 different sizes: small, medium, and large. The larger your lot size, the larger your wet weather facilities charge. The small lots are those that are less than 5,000 square feet, and you can see the charge for fiscal year 20 and 21 that was approved by our board of directors on June 11th of this year as part of the adoption of the water and wastewater charges. In the middle, you can see for the mid-size lots that are 5 to 10,000 square feet, and then you can see the charge for the large lot sizes that are over 10,000 square feet. Now, there's a number of procedural requirements to be able to charge the wet weather facilities charge on the property tax roll. First, we must prepare and file a written report each year with the Secretary of the District. Then, we must publish a notice of the filing of the report and of the public hearing in a newspaper of general circulation. We must hold a public hearing, like we are doing today, to consider protests of the report and to determine if there is a majority protest. If there's no majority protest, the board must consider and then must approve the report and approve collecting the wet weather facilities charge on the property tax rolls, both with a 2/3 votes. It requires 5 board directors to approve it. And finally, if we get the board approval today, we will file the approved report with the county auditors on or before August 10th. So these are the procedural requirements summarized for you. And now I'd like to walk you through the timeline. On June 11th, the board adopted the fiscal year 20 and 21 water and wastewater charges, which included the wet weather facilities charge. On July 11th, the written report was filed with the Secretary of the District. On July 12th, a public notice was issued in the Oakland Trib, and on July 19th, a public notice was issued in the Contra Costa Times. Today, we're holding the public hearing, and we will be asking the board to accept staff's recommendation to adopt the report. So in closing, on a beautiful sunny day like today, the flow to the main wastewater treatment plant is 50 million gallons today. But that will change when it rains. When it rains, we can see flows go from 50 to 100 to 200 million gallons per day in a matter of hours. That rain you hear falling from the sky, it's flowing into the private sewer laterals, it's flowing into the collection systems of the city, and it's making its way to our wastewater treatment plant. The operations of the wastewater system get very complex during these storm events. To successfully manage the wastewater system during these storm events, the district relies on its wet weather facilities to protect public health and to protect San Francisco Bay. Today, staff is recommending that the board adopt the report by at least 2/3 of the members of the board. We're asking the board to authorize the district to collect the fiscal year 2020 wet weather facilities charge on the property tax rolls of Alameda and Contra Costa County. We're also asking the board to authorize staff to adjust the fiscal year 2020 wet weather facilities charge for any affected parcels as new information is provided by the counties. And finally, we're asking the board to direct the Secretary of the District to file a copy of the report with the Alameda County Auditor and the Contra Costa County Auditor. With that, I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Eileen? Doug?
I have a question. So Eileen, it came to my attention that there were some customers that had accidentally received the wet weather charge on their regular bill instead of the property tax. Can you explain that situation?
Yeah, so what happened was there was a programming error, and it came to our attention that there was approximately 2,000 homeowners, a large number of them in Alameda, in the city of Alameda, that through the coding they were marked as exempt, and they weren't exempt. For the exempt parcel owners, we charged them on their water bill. When it came to our attention, we sent them a note, and we let them know that we're putting it on the water bill. We put it on the water bill, and we also sent a letter saying that if you're a tenant, you are not to pay this charge because the charge belongs to the property owner. And we fixed that with some new software that we'll be using next year, so it won't happen again.
And is that has there been bumps in the road on that in terms of people seeing those notices or any of that, or has that been more or less smooth?
It's pretty much over because it started with the billings in June and July is wrapping up. We had about 64 phone calls in which we went ahead and credited people, or we explained that it was not their charge, that they were a tenant. And we've got that fixed for future years.
Okay, thank you.
So it's not going to show up on, it won't then again show up on property tax?
It'll show up on property tax, and technically the only people who should be getting the wet weather facilities charge on their water bill is exempt properties, like a school district, like a city facility, a government agency. So for government agencies, the exempt parcels, which there's about 1,400 exempt parcels total within our service area, they get their wet weather facilities charge on their water bill. But everybody else is on the property tax roll, assuming you approve it today.
Okay. Any other questions for Eileen? Andy?
It's kind of between.
In looking at the health and safety code that authorizes us to take this action, it's based on pursuant to Health and Safety Code Section 5473, right?
Right.
So that is that allows an entity to adopt an ordinance or resolution to place a charge that benefits property on the property tax rolls.
That's correct.
And the report can be filed annually with the clerk, I believe. Is it the clerk of the county or the clerk of the board or district?
It's of the county, and these are the reports. I should show you. So because we have more property owners in Alameda County, the Contra Costa binder is smaller. And this is the listing that, assuming we get the board approval today, I'll go back to the timeline for you guys to show you. And what the health and safety code requires is that these approved reports would be filed with the county auditors on or before August 10th in order for the wet weather facilities charge to be on the property tax roll.
So today we'll be authorizing a standing resolution or ordinance. Which form is it?
It's a resolution, and it's each year we'll be coming back to ask, even though you've already approved the wet weather facilities charge for fiscal year 20 and 21, we'll be coming back per the procedural requirements of the Health and Safety Code and holding a public hearing each year to get the board's approval to put it on the property tax roll per the Health and Safety Code.
I see. So yeah, it appears that it's been drafted in a particular way for this year. For next year, I would like to request that if the statute allows the board of directors to adopt the resolution to be a standing policy that would allow the staff to administratively file the report, that may be helpful for ensuring that we're able to guarantee for our bondholders and our fiscal security, if it's consistent with the statute, to be able to proceed administratively in future years. But I understand that we'll be seeing this again next year.
Right, and we'll look into that. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Craig, are you ready to address
Yes. So
John's
the wet weather facilities fee was adopted by this board pursuant to the required majority on June 11th. That was preceded by the Prop 218 notice. There were the protests that were allowed and vote and counted. Majority protest did not carry the day, and so the fee now has been adopted for 2 years. So this procedure is to allow for that fee to be put onto the property roll. And if anyone has an objection to like we did earlier on item 12, there's a objection to having that fee put on a particular property roll, then that's what this effort is all about today.
John, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much, Craig.
How many protests have been received?
We're going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
And I'm actually trying to get that number now.
So keep talking. That's our next up thing.
And did you find consistency with Proposition 218 because of the property-related service and the special benefit under Section 4 of Article 13D?
Well, you're testing me now, but it is a rate and charge that is property related, and it is determined based on proportionality, based on size of the property that's being charged. Mm-hmm. So it complies with Prop 218.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we?
So staff is telling me that we're counting the protest from the rates, which is 66, but I am trying to confirm if there were any protests to this report.
Okay.
If we've received any protests to this report, and I believe Kathy is going out, so if she could let me know that. Thank you.
We have to hold until we know that, right?
Yeah, you can close the public hearing, though, in the meantime.
Okay,
so
the public hearing is now officially closed, and we will announce the number of valid protests as soon as we have them.
Yes.
There's been no protest filed.
Thank you.
Okay. So the district has 174,442 parcels that are subject to the wet weather facility charge in the amounts listed in the report. The secretary of the district, or actually in this case, Eileen White, has advised us that the district received 0 valid written protests from the record owners of parcels listed in the report and upon which the wet weather facility charge is proposed to be collected on the property tax rolls. So based on the number of valid written protests submitted prior to the close of the public hearing, a majority protest does not exist for the adoption of the report. Accordingly, the report may be adopted and the wet weather facilities charge may be collected for fiscal year 2019 property tax rolls of Alameda and Contra Costa counties for EBMUD's fiscal year 2020 upon approval of the board. That leads us to agenda items 13.2 A, B, C, and D. To A, adopt EBMUD's written report describing each parcel of real property subject to the wet weather facilities charge by at least a 2/3 vote of the members of the board. To B, authorize the district to collect the wet weather facilities charge on the fiscal year 2019-20 property tax rolls of Alameda and Contra Costa counties. C, to authorize district staff to adjust the wet weather facilities charge for any affected parcels as new information is provided by the counties. And D, to direct the Secretary of the District to file a copy of the report on or before August 10th with the Alameda County Auditor and the Contra Costa County Auditor. So I need a motion to adopt 13.2 A, B, C, and D.
I'll second.
Motion by Director Patterson, seconded by Director Linney. Any further discussion? Hearing. Nope. John? Okay. We'll now vote on 13.2A through 13.2D. All those.
Does this need to be roll call vote, Madam Secretary?
No, I didn't see anything that required a roll call vote for this.
Okay. Then I'm not asking for it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. The measure passes unanimously. And we are on to the General Manager's report.
So, board members, we have an information memo in your materials that continues the conversation that we had at the last board meeting about, what is the threshold for board members notifying myself and the secretary as to when you're out of town, to make it a little bit easier for us to pull a board meeting together in the case we have an emergency. And so, after giving it some thought, we thought that the past request, which was heading towards just any time you leave town, let us know, was probably over inclusive. And when we got it down to, because we need 24 hours to be able to pull together an emergency board meeting, is that if you're going to be traveling and unable to be reached within over a period of 24 hours, then we'd like to know that so that we can try to anticipate what's another way that we could get a hold of you, if at all. Or if you're going to be traveling and you can't get back to the district within 24 hours, say you may be in Europe or other places, then we'd like to know that too. So that kind of narrows it down. If you're heading out of town for the weekend and we can get a hold of you on the phone, or you're going to LA for work and we can get a hold of you on the phone, then it really isn't necessary, because we'll just get a hold of you on the phone or by email or text. We have all your mechanisms. So that sort of narrows it down. If we can't get a hold of you for 24 hours because you're going to be out of cell communication or you're going to be out of the country, that's probably what we need to know.
I think that you threaded the needle on this, got it right. I don't know. Is there any other discussion, Frank?
John. And Craig, maybe you can help, or somebody else. So we're within phone reach. Can we use that to be able to conduct an emergency phone board meeting?
You have to have at least 4 board members within the service area.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody can be on a telephone call
Yeah.
and have a teleconference hearing, but at least 4 have to be within the service area.
So if you let us know, then we can start to understand, are we going to have a potential problem?
So it's really just pre-planning. John?
My question goes right to the issue of an emergency, Craig. Is there anything in the statute that if it's a critical emergency where people are not able to access phones? I mean, one, do we need 40 hours notice for a meeting if it's an emergency, like we normally do? 24. But let's say people are out of the area, or out of the area due to the emergency.
Oh.
Then, does the statute allow for business to be conducted? Let's say a major earthquake or whatever else in our service area, and people need to vacate due to whatever the circumstance. Is there anything in the statute that allows us to do that?
The board has delegated the power to declare an emergency with the general manager and with the consent and approval of the board president or designee. So an emergency can be declared, and then the board can ratify the emergency in a later meeting.
Which,
But that doesn't get to my question.
Well, what it does, it gets to the point of that if people aren't available right then and there on 24 hours notice, the general manager does have the authority to declare the emergency and have that approved by the board president. So the emergency declaration does take place without the board members being able to attend.
So what happens if you need to conduct business during an emergency for the expenditure of funds or staffing issues and things of that nature?
So we have a certain authority. I think it's up to $350,000 of authority to enter into contracts to deal with the emergency, and then that also can be ratified in a later meeting. I think on the board succession plan that does not. I don't believe that begins to apply just because you cannot attend a board meeting.
doesn't have to be a governor declared.
It's not a local emergency, and it is a state or a federal emergency. But I believe you have to be incapacitated by the emergency
in order for us to activate the standby officers.
Right.
Which we've already all have.
All identified, right? So if we can't get a hold of you because there's no communication, then we won't be able to affirm that you can make it back. We'll have to assume that something's gone awry, and we're in an emergency, right? And it's a significant earthquake or something. So then we will work to activate the standby officer system.
And I'm very happy to prepare a memo. I think as scenarios come up where people, because luckily we don't deal with emergencies very often, and so a lot of planning goes into what happens when an emergency is declared. But there are any number of scenarios that can happen that we need to consider, and that's part of our planning purpose. So given what you've asked, I think is a good example of a scenario that let us respond at the next board meeting with a memo explaining exactly how we see that scenario playing out, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Okay. I don't think we need a motion on this.
No, if you're comfortable, then we'll just appreciate that you will notify us consistent with these requests.
Okay.
Works for me.
Next up is reports from our committees. The Planning and Ledge HR committee minutes from last meeting are included in your packets. Get brief reports from the Sustainability Energy Committee and the Finance Administration Committee. Director Linney.
Yes, so we had a meeting this morning from the Sustainability Energy Committee. We had 2 items listed. The first item, the Employees Retirement System Environmental, Social, and Governance Considerations, was a briefing on how we use environmental, social, and governance considerations in the employees' retirement system. It was a useful and thorough report with a lot of questions and an understanding by the committee on that. There was not a vote taken on that. The second item was put over, was on the water bottle filling stations. That was put over because the first item ran over.
Okay. And Finance and Administration, Director Patterson.
Yes, Madam President. The Finance and Administration Committee met this morning, and there were 4 items on the agenda. The Financial Procurement System Replacement Project took the bulk of the time, and the committee was thoroughly advised of this system. We have an antiquated system. Despite what you saw today in terms of our achievement, it's being done under probably the worst scenario that you could imagine. This project will bring us far into the 21st century and have all the latest buttons and whistles to go with it. So we received that report this morning and understanding of it. Then the annual internal audit report was conducted, bringing us up to date on where we intend to go with the audits in the next fiscal year. The monthly investment transactions report and the quarterly financials report were received and approved unanimously by the committee. And that's the upshot of the report.
Thank you, Director Patterson. Okay. Are there any other items for future consideration? If you have them, please. Yep.
I have one.
I'm going to get to director comments in a second. Do you have something else you want to have us talk about?
Just that 3 meetings ago, I think I had to leave in an emergency situation. I saw that in the minutes. And I wanted to make sure, first of all, I apologize. I did tell the president I had an emergency. My caregiver had an emergency, and I had to get home to relieve her so she could go. And that was the reason for my early exit. And I apologize to the board and to all who were present that day.
First things first. Okay. Any other director comments? Director Coleman?
Yeah, my comments are submitted. What I would like to do, if we could, on when we are looking at the agenda and download it, it does not tell us what item it is. For example, you download it, it just says there's no number, and you have when you go to our website.
Okay.
And if it can be on the agenda, because when you're going back and forth on web, on your internet, you're not sure where you are. I mean, or what item is 11, 12, or whatever. If that can just be even handwritten in, that would be fine.
Okay.
And the other thing I asked about, if we could have, when we have an item up here, at least have on the screen, maybe the page of the report or whatever, so the public also sees what we're looking at and doing. Let's say,
yeah.
I mean, that's done in a lot of municipalities now. It makes it, there's a little bit more, people see what we're looking at, and they have a better understanding of what we're doing. And that may not be able to be done in the first couple of meetings, but if you're on item 12,
you could post if there's nothing besides our pretty picture, just have the agenda posted behind us.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great. It'd be easier for me and I think members of the public to see what we're doing. Thank you.
I do like the way on the website that now you hot click the number and it pulls the item up. That's nice.
Yeah, but when I went to to put it into annotations and then I transferred over to the books, it doesn't tell you what the item is when you're flipping through the pages.
Yeah, I've just started using it directly from the web because you can get the thing. Anyway.
So it's particular to the way we are providing it to the board members because...
Well, it's what anybody can get off the web. For example, if Joe Schmo were to go to board staff reports, they'll see the agenda, but then as you go further in, it has agenda item and it's a blank line.
John, are you referring to the bookmarks that you see on the screen here on the left?
I just brought it up.
No.
No.
He's talking about when you download it, when you click to download it into
Here, let me get it.
Acrobat. It's a board thing, though. It's not a...
I just want to be clear, so...
let me find it here.
This up on the screen now?
Yeah, I did. And I'm just looking at...
See,
So if you clicked on item 3, this is why...
It's there.
It's not
Yeah,
clear
it's
to me.
If you go to... here. Let me find it. What I download from our staff reports and then I put it to new annotations to make notations on before I copy it to books. It's like that. I have to write the number in up above.
Oh, because it's not, there's a blank where it says
Yeah.
agenda number on the,
If you can let me see that, I'll check it out.
Yeah, so this appears to be how we communicate the electronic
But you know what?
versions to board
it's on there when you click on it.
What I don't do the hyper thing there. I just download the entire thing to new annotations so I can mark it up and make my comments and
I haven't
notes.
noticed that when I do
And then
that.
I copy it to books, but the agenda item is blank. The number is blank on there.
It might be a artifact of the software.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think for the public's purposes, when they're looking at the agenda online or on their
Let me look
devices,
and see how we're
it will.
Because I pull it right off of our website under staff reports and download it then.
So this is your staff report. Okay. We'll
Yeah.
look at it. I think it's your
Mine
system.
doesn't have that. Where did you grab it from?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because it comes up on mine.
Wow.
All right.
I'm special, I guess.
Was Noah still using it for navigation purposes?
Huh? Navigation?
Yeah, I think the iOS software doesn't have all the bells and whistles of Adobe Acrobat.
I see, I'm
That
going
is
to
for
pour
sure.
it right now here to here.
Well, I don't like the way iBooks works on the iPad anyway, so there you go. All right. That has nothing to do with decision-making by our agenda. Okay.
All right, so we'll coordinate with Director Coleman on this in particular, and then more generally, we'll identify the
More
agenda
general, I
item.
like the idea of having our agenda up on,
We can do that.
or something that so people can follow along with where we are. Although there are agendas,
Yeah.
Risha,
Yes.
there are agendas on the table outside that people come in with, right? Yeah, okay. So people should know where we are, even though they don't have, even if they don't have a device open. Okay, John?
That's it.
Okay. All right. I think we are, with that, we are ready to adjourn. Our next regular meeting of the Board of Directors will be held at 1:15 on Tuesday, August 13th, right here at our 375 11th Street Administrative Center Boardroom. Thank you.